It's Friday, March 3rd, 2023, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden will sign a Republican-backed measure overturning the District of Columbia's new criminal code that reduces maximum sentences for major crimes. White House correspondent Jeff Murdoch reports the White House previously signaled opposition to the measure. A statement of policy said the nation's capital should have the power to determine its own rules. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Biden now sees the issue differently and doesn't support lowering penalties for crimes like carjacking. Biden's support could pave the way for several Senate Democrats to vote for the measure. It cleared the House last month on a 250 to 173 vote, with 31 Democrats voting in the affirmative. The federal regulatory agency that spurred backlash by suggesting a ban on new gas stoves is taking action that could lead to further regulations against the appliances. Ramsey Touchberry reports the Consumer Product Safety Commission has approved a request for information about health hazards posed by gas stove emissions and potential solutions. The procedural step, which seeks feedback from scientists, consumers, and the public, is part of the process that can lead to more regulations. Proponents of switching from natural gas stoves to electric stoves point to studies suggesting that the methane-emitting appliances cause respiratory health conditions, such as asthma. Several of those studies, however, have been criticized for faulty methodology. Federal prosecutors say MS-13 has expanded its operations into Mexico, running migrant smuggling routes to make money and sending reinforcements into the United States. Stephen Dinan reports members of the gang patrolled and demanded payment for La Bestia, a train used by Central Americans to traverse Mexico. Prosecutors said in a recently unsealed indictment that migrants who didn't pay could be thrown off the train. MS-13 also used the smuggling routes to watch for rival gang members trying to reach the United States. Those who were intercepted were killed, and their bodies were buried in either unmarked graves or dissolved in chemicals, according to the charges. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find the entire lineup of Washington Times podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. And a quick programming note, the front page will be off from Monday, March 6th through Wednesday, March 15th, and will return on Thursday, March 16th. For the past decade, 3 U.S. administrations have struggled to find a clear strategy to reverse the downward spiral in Syria. Pentagon correspondent Ben Wolfgang reports the country presents a unique set of military, political, and humanitarian problems with major consequences for the region and for U.S. national security. There are still 900 American troops stationed in the country, where Russian and Iranian-backed Syrian government forces clash with rebels, as well as Islamic State and al-Qaeda militants. Foreign policy analysts generally say the U.S. has lacked a holistic approach capable of addressing the violence since a pro-democracy revolt erupted into civil war more than a decade ago. For American Indian tribes, federal recognition is the golden ticket that brings with it legal status, federal support, and tax benefits. Unrecognized tribal bands, however, can be a headache at best and a threat to tribal sovereignty at worst. Valerie Richardson reports politicians prefer to steer clear of tribal infighting, but some lawmakers have been caught in the middle as frustrated, unrecognized tribes turn to Congress to gain federal status, and the recognized tribes push back. A coalition of 141 of the nation's 574 federally recognized tribes took the extraordinary step of releasing a video in November. Those tribes opposed 2 Senate bills that would have granted recognition to the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina and the Mowa Band of Choctaw Indians. And finally, national politics reporter Seth McLaughlin checks in on the happenings at CPAC. Conservative activists at the conference have rallied around the idea that the federal government, mainstream media, and big tech companies have been weaponized against them as part of a scheme. They claim Republicans can rescue the country if they take control of the White House and Senate in the next election. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. And once again, a reminder that the front page will be off from Monday, March 6th through Wednesday, March 15th, and will return on Thursday, March 16th. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.